The NBA playoffs started with an absolute bang tonight with the Lakers and Timberwolves game. Lakers win 108-102 in overtime in one of the most exciting but also one of the wackiest games I've seen in a while. Obviously, the big story of this game was the final few minutes of regulation going into that overtime. Dennis Schroeder hitting the go-ahead three-pointer, but then Mike Conley getting fouled by Davis, making those 3 free throws, sending it to overtime. But this game started with a rollicking pace. I thought both teams offensively were going all out to start that first quarter. The first quarter was a ton of fun. Just felt like everyone was pulling out the stops. You had Kyle Anderson kind of wrecking havoc on the game for Minnesota, kind of filling the void on the wing with McDaniels out. Towns, with Gobert's sideline, he was able to just embrace being the man in the middle. He was going crazy on offense. LeBron, Davis, they looked great to start the game. So it just felt like the pace of the game, it felt like it might have led to a high-scoring affair through the first quarter, at least in my eyes. But then the second quarter, things kind of got a little sloppier. Wild passes, some messy turnovers. People were just, slipping, falling on the floor. You had Townsend, Davis just kind of getting mixed up down there in the paint. It was just a lot slower of a quarter, but the Wolves kind of wound up controlling the game going into the half. I thought that was because they kind of just seemed poised. You saw Mike Conley especially just calm and collected, making a lot of really solid three-pointers, just giving the Wolves an identity at the guard position they really needed in this game, where I thought the Lakers, their biggest problem in the first half was the fact that they couldn't quite get their offense going. The only time the Lakers really excelled to me for most of this game until the fourth quarter was when they were playing with pace, playing in transition. You saw LeBron just sprinting up and down the court, passing it off to Austin Reeves, getting Davis under the paint for an easy dunk or something like that. When they were playing with pace, they were keeping up with the Wolves, but the Lakers, they couldn't quite settle in to start the game, and that led to, D'Angelo Russell shorting a lot of threes. He didn't have a very good night tonight. Austin Reeves couldn't quite get in rhythm. So in that first half, it really felt like the Lakers role players weren't quite living up to the task. The third quarter is where the Lakers started to get back on track. They outscored the Wolves, and they clawed close for pretty much the whole third quarter. It felt like the Lakers, they'd gone on a nice run. They'd pull it within 5, they'd pull it within 6, whatever it may be, and the Wolves would just find a way to keep the lead. Towns continued to play great. The big problem for the Wolves in this game, their best player, Anthony Edwards, had just a really bad game. He couldn't get anything to fall. And I thought he played with a lot of effort. I thought he was rebounding well. Thought he was pretty solid defensively at times. But for a while, I was like, he'll get going eventually. They'll get him rolling. But he wound up just having a terrible game. You can't really put it any other way. So I think that definitely hurt the Wolves. But also the fact that the Lakers, they just started to get that momentum in the third quarter. Dennis Schroeder started to play really well. He kind of got dinged up in the first half. But once Ham made a really good adjustment of noticing Russell wasn't having a good night, then he put Schroeder in, gave Schroeder the minutes, and I thought from there, Schroeder kind of fit in with the rest of that main group for the Lakers. And that was a bit of a turning point. And come the fourth, the Wolves, they started out really solid. They were making their threes, doing whatever. But then when Towns picked up that fifth foul, and he had some sloppy fouls earlier in the game, which led to that point, that's when the pace of the game changed. That's when the tone of the game changed. Because all of a sudden it was like, well, the Wolves don't have Gobert. They don't have really any backup center. They're playing Kyle Anderson at backup center because I guess they didn't trust Knight. They didn't trust guards or whoever else they had on the bench. So all of a sudden, now Davis is wreaking havoc against whoever the Wolves got down there in the post. So that led to them putting Towns back in the game only a couple minutes later around the 7-minute mark. I think that was a good choice for Finch because at that point, it's like if he fouls out, he fouls out. You just go with the rest of your personnel. Towns never fouled out. So it was the right call. I think Finch made a really good decision to put Towns back in. But the thing is, that fourth quarter was filled with turnovers. It was filled with bricks. At one point, the two teams were shooting like a combined 5 of almost 5 of 20, 5 of 21, somewhere around there through the first 5-6 minutes of that quarter. And eventually, it just became such a slugfest. But the Lakers were able to outlast it. LeBron hits that huge dagger 3 over Prince. And then a few possessions later, LeBron trusts Schroeder. He drives to the rim. There's only a few seconds left. And he trusts Dennis to make that corner 3. And Dennis had been playing great. He kind of rewarded Ham. Ham kept him in there for pretty much the entire fourth quarter. So really smart play led by LeBron. Really ballsy shot by Schroeder. Takes the lead, 98-95. But then Davis tries to close down with 0.1 seconds. Conley's fouled. He makes all 3 free throws. Maybe a flimsy foul, but I don't know. I think it's not worth arguing. And then we go to overtime, and, another adjustment Ham made was he put Rui in for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, I don't think, had a bad game, but Rui just seemed to be a little more up to the task. He makes a three to start the overtime. And then from there, the Lakers they outlast the Wolves. The Wolves barely scored. I mean, the Wolves, they didn't score they didn't make a field goal from the 6-minute mark of the fourth until about halfway through overtime. So at that point, and Edwards got going. He did have 2 baskets in that overtime period. So it was good to see him finally get his momentum back. But the Lakers, they pulled it out, and they made the free throws at the end, and they hold off the Wolves. So I don't know. I probably skipped half the important things in this game, but there was so much back and forth, so many different aspects of this game. So definitely a wild conclusion, but the Lakers pulled it out by hell or high water. So got to give them props there. Huge performance from LeBron James. That's all I got to say. This was a nuts game. This was a crazy game. Exhausting game to watch, but also a really fun game to watch.